Hello there, and welcome to Imagine Spotlights, a weekly video series co-produced by the American Diabetes Association and Beyond Type 1. I'm your host, Rob Howe, creator of the Diabetics Doing Things podcast. Every week on Imagine Spotlights, I'll talk to an amazing individual living with type 1 diabetes. Thank you for joining us, and let's get this party started.
Welcome back, campers, to Imagine Camp, the Imagine Camp Spotlight Series. I'm your host, Rob Howe. We're back again, and I have an extremely fun guest for you guys today. I think you're going to love it. I want you guys to put your hands together at home, wherever you are. I learned that if you shake like this on a Zoom, that's sign language for applause. So put your hands in the air for two-time NFL champion and T1D superstar, Mr. Kendall Simmons. Welcome to the show, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love doing things for kids. I tell people all the time I'm a large 13-year-old on the inside. So
I feel the same way. That's why they brought me in for camp, because there's no place like diabetes camp. So why don't you give us a little bit of introduction to who you are? And you obviously, like all the other guests on the Imagine Spotlight series, live with type 1 diabetes. So welcome to, why don't you just give us a little bit of a background on who you are and how you ended up here today?
Well, like I said, my name is Kendall Simmons. I had the opportunity to play football at Auburn University. I'm originally from North Mississippi. Grew up, my grandmother had type 2 diabetes. We didn't talk about it, didn't know anything about it at all. And when I went to Auburn University, never had any symptoms. Played football there, graduated in 2001, got my degree in graphic design. Was blessed to be picked by the Pittsburgh Steelers as a first-round pick. 30th pick overall, going into my second year, actually is when I was diagnosed. And it was something that really scared me because we didn't talk about it and I didn't know what it was. Back where I'm from, and I know the young generation doesn't look at it, I probably hadn't heard this, but we call it sugar in the South. That's what all the old people, and they still call it sugar now. So that's what I would, if they would have said, you have sugar, I would, okay, I know that term, but I still don't know what it is. But going as a Pittsburgh Steeler, I was lucky to have ownership that really was looking forward to taking care of me and putting me back on the right path. So getting here today, I became a big advocate once I retired from football, learned about Beyond Type 1, saw the things that they were doing and how they were going to attack Type 1 from a social media platform. And I thought that was big because that's where our generation is today. Got to know Sarah well, and told her, I said, hey, I want to become part of this. And then went on and talked to her a few years, and now here I am, got an opportunity to actually be a part of one of the diversity boards and have a chance to speak to you guys today.
Well, we are super grateful for you and for people like you who are giving back to the diabetes community and are here for Imagine Camp, because, hey, while we're all sort of separate, we can still get together and jump from Zoom to Zoom and bring camp inside to our houses where it's safe. So I want to talk a little bit about this because I know how, the odds are crazy to be drafted in the first round in the NFL. There's so many people in the United States that play football and around the world that play high school football to college football and college football at the highest level. And then to make it to the NFL, it's like the 1% of the 1% of people who ever play football. And then you throw a diagnosis like diabetes on it, you're in a very select group, my friend. The odds of being a type 1 diabetic in the NFL are just astronomical. So I want to talk a little bit about how you approached your mindset of football and making it to and playing at the great Auburn University, and then making it to the NFL. And then, when you were diagnosed with diabetes, what was your mindset? How did you approach the next thing? Obviously you were, ready and used to taking on challenges. How did you approach diabetes?
Well, I really approached it like anything else. Ask questions, try to get as much help as I can, and find a positive in it. To me, and this is really how I feel about diabetes, is that it taught me more mental toughness than anything else I ever dealt with in my entire life. I had to learn how to approach life differently. It's just like learning a new workout. It's going to test your body. It's going to push you constantly. Type 1 is like that every day for the most part. And you got to learn how to adjust. And I really feel like people who learn to live with type 1 diabetes successfully, adjusting to life's curveball is easy for them. But you got to make sure you ask for help and just, go about it with as much positivity as you possibly can. And that's what I did.
I totally agree with that. I think I often say that diabetes makes me better at failure, because I know, on a day-to-day basis, maybe I won't count my carbs right, or maybe I'll give myself too much insulin and I'll go into a workout and I'll have to treat. But I don't stop. I have to keep going. I have to keep learning. And that, I think, makes me better at the other parts of my life as well. You mentioned this about the organization and the Steelers, that they were really supportive of, getting you and being the best athlete that you could be. But you also talked about early in your life that your grandmother had type 2 diabetes and you guys didn't talk about it. Did you,
Yes.
What was it like for you to bring coaches and teammates and the organization in with you in your diabetes? And how did talking about your diabetes help you, achieve your career goals?
Honestly, I had a hard time with it at first, bringing my coaches and my teammates into it. I really hid from it. And I'll give you a quick story. This is what really kind of set it all off for me, to let me know that I needed to have people in my life to help me out. I had them there, but I wasn't letting them in. Me and my wife would go to dinner with our friends on the team for Pittsburgh Steelers. And I would get up and go to the bathroom and go check my blood sugar and prick my finger. I wouldn't sit there at the table with everybody else, because for one, I hadn't accepted it myself, and I didn't want them seeing me doing it and have people staring at me while I did it. And probably after like the fourth time getting up, going to the bathroom, my wife grabbed my arm and she's like, look, everybody here knows what's going on. They know what you're doing. You ain't got to, go use the bathroom that many times. Hey, how you can sit here. If they don't like it, they can turn their head, they can do whatever, but that's just part of your life. Now, for all you young people out there listening to me, I know it's hard for you to let your friends in and let even your family members in. But type 1 for right now, until we find a cure for it, and I really believe that we will, it is a part of who you are. If you can't accept that, then it's something about that you don't like. I love myself. And that ain't being arrogant, but you got to love yourself to be able to take care of yourself. And you really have to look at it that way. And once I accepted it and started treating type 1 as part of my life and who I am, that's when I started succeeding in it, because I struggled with it in the beginning until I had that defining moment with my wife. And I ain't gonna lie to you now, I got really, 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 really pissed off at her about that in front of our friends. And I had to catch myself, because this is a person who loves me, who is really telling me the truth. And from that moment on, I started accepting it more and more. I started taking my shots in front of my teammates. I started pricking my fingers, them asking me questions because their family members have it, or whatever it may be. And having the support behind the team, that really helped. You're at a camp right now. You have support. Now, you might leave there and you don't have the people who you necessarily say are supporting you. But you will gain more support when you start letting people in and showing them what's going on in your life. And I promise you, it's not as bad as you think it's going to be, because as being a grown-up at that point in time, yes, I struggle with it, but I'm doing so much better by letting people in now.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I had such a similar experience early on. I was in college, and one of my teammates, a person that I cared about and cared about me, and we were friends, he asked me a really simple question. And I snapped at him. I almost bit his head off because he asked just a really simple question about, I was given an injection and I was on finger sticks and multiple daily injections at the time. Mm-hmm. And he might as well have insulted my mom, or so the way that I attacked him. And I had to look at that later, and I apologized to him later on, but I didn't realize how close and how guarded I was keeping my diabetes. And I wasn't as open. I didn't want to share it. I thought it was my burden to share on my own. Until years later, when I started bringing other people in and bringing the community in and realizing that I could have friends who I talk about my diabetes with, or, I could talk about it with my fiance or with my family or just in my general life, that opened up so much for me. And that made living with diabetes so much, I won't say easier, but so much more supported and so much more inclusive. And, I think sometimes, especially as an athlete, you kind of have to have an alpha male mentality. You kind of have to have a winner at all cost mentality. And diabetes isn't like that. It threw me a curveball. I realized that I'm stronger when I bring other people in.
Yes.
And that was a big lesson for me to learn. So it's always cool to hear people like yourself say that same thing. We all have to do a little bit of learning sometimes on the diabetes front.
That's true. That is definitely true. I would tell you this too, what really did it for me also, is I hear young people all the time when I do talks at camps like that you have, this virtual one, but in person, I just want to be normal. And I always stop the person and I ask the whole crowd, can you define normal for me? Tell me what normal is. And you always got that one person, maybe even a couple, who wants to raise their hand and tell you, and I'll stop them before they even start. I said, you can't define normal. There's no such thing as normal. We all, as a society, make a perception on what normal is supposed to be, but there isn't a normal. And I'm a faith guy, and I really believe this because I know I'm not here. I'm only here because God has asked me to, and He set this path up for me to be. But the only normal person has ever been has been Jesus. Period. He has been normal. The rest of us are screwed up in some way, shape, form, or fashion. We got something going on with us. But He made us uniquely. So, accept that and don't try to fit into what the mode is or what your group is, because that's what's going to make you unique and stand out is just, you have type 1. You got a freckle here or there. That's what makes you who you are. So I had to learn that myself, and I want everybody to do the same thing.
100% agree. I think, and you're from the South, I'll call it a brain fart. I just had a brain fart because I had a great point to make, and maybe it'll come to me later on in this conversation. But, I think, here it is, being different, especially when you're young, admitting that you're different is difficult and it's hard.
Yes.
And sometimes, there are people out there who are rude and insecure, and they look at your differences and they make fun of them and they say mean things. And I think it's just, it's so important to talk about, like you say, normal. We don't know what normal is. We're conditioned to be told what's good or what's normal by society. In reality, I think that the things that make us vulnerable and the things that make us different are the things that make us powerful. So, I love that, you're able to say, hey, yeah, I am different. I do live with diabetes, and that makes me better than I was yesterday. And it makes me different, and that's what makes me special. I want to talk about something that's very different too, but in a different way, You've won 2 Super Bowls with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that is different. That makes you in a very select group. What's it like to win a championship at the highest level? What did that feel like for you? You see the confetti fall and you and your teammates are there celebrating with your families. What's it like to win on the highest level?
Honestly, for years, I still have not been able to put that into words. I've been asked that question 1,000,000 times, and I still can't put it into words. The best way I can explain it to you is that I had a couple hurdles leading up to that, with being diagnosed with type 1 in 2003. The following season, I blew my knee out, and our team, Pittsburgh, went 15-1, and I just knew they were going to win the Super Bowl without me. So I had a hard time watching us that entire season and feeling like I wasn't a part of that. The next year we won it, and I started every game from the start of training camp to the end. And being a part of that was so special just because of the road that I had to go through to get to that. And the point I'm making, I guess, with that is that, you guys, you live with type 1. Some of you might be newly diagnosed. Some of you have had it for a while. But if you just keep hanging in there, it's all going to pay off in the end, because you have to be so much more prepared than the so-called normal person, because you deal with this every day. And you stay the course, that hard work is going to pay off. Now, a couple of years later, going into the second Super Bowl, I did have to watch that one. I tore my Achilles week 3 against the Baltimore Ravens, Monday Night Football. And now that one was hard, but he would set me up for another path to kind of move on and do some other things. And that's the way I look at that now, but I had a hard time seeing that now. So you just got to, roll with it. But when I tell you it was exciting, I didn't go to sleep on the first one at all for about 2 days. I took a shower in my ring. All kind of stuff, man. I really enjoyed it. We really did. And the second one, I enjoyed that one, even though I was hurt because of the fact of we had a young guy who took my spot. The young offensive line was younger. People had doubted us even being there. And I felt like I was really close with that group of guys. And my wife made a point to me. She said, you are a part of this team. Whether you are playing or not, you had something to do with getting there, and you're one of the older guys. So you need to be there and help the other guy who has taken your spot, and just to be eyes for the group. And so that gave me a different perspective, coach-wise, just being on the other side of it and looking at, hey, I can still be helpful. I am a part of this. So, it not being in the mix, it really wasn't that bad at the end.
I love both of those stories that you shared about both Super Bowls, because I think, sometimes, and this is the thing that I talk about a lot, is like, as a society, we tend to think of success as linear and like always going up. Mm-hmm. And, you mentioned you had big obstacles to overcome in your career with diabetes and with injuries. And, mm-hmm. Sometimes success looks like this, yes. And, when you get to be a part of something like that, life is long for many of us, right? And sometimes it can be hard to overcome things, or to be defeated, or to experience obstacles. But the greatest success, I think, can be when you overcome obstacles and you're able to take those in stride and still do and live the life that you want to live. So, I just love hearing that perspective, because it's not always hitting home run after home run and, win after win after win. Sometimes, you have to take your lumps, wins and losses, both on the field and off, and learn from those. Thinking through like some of your time in the NFL, what stands out as some of your favorite memories?
The first one that pops in my head, which you brought up with the Super Bowl, the first one. My oldest daughter will be 16 in about a little under a month. And I remember her she wasn't even 2 years old yet when we won Super Bowl 40. And she had these two humongous Afro puffs on top of her head. And she had my number on. And she'd never seen me in my full uniform. So after the game, I ran up to the sideline to get her and my wife out of the stands. And my little girl freaked out. She started crying, and she was pushing like, I don't know who this is. Mama, please get me. I don't want nothing to do with this guy. So I had to hand her to my mother-in-law, and then get my wife down first, and then get her down. And watching my daughter do confetti angels on the field and run around like that sticks in my mind more than the game itself did. It was just something about sharing that moment with my family at the time will be something that I will never, ever forget. I remember parts of that game just by looking at it I see like replays of it. But from the time Jeff Reed kicked the ball off, and when everybody sees that iconic, the flash bulbs going off when they kicked the ball on the first play, I went blank after that. It seemed like the game just happened and it was over with like that. And it's still that way for me today unless I watch it. That one there was big. Two other ones stand out big time to me. The very first person that I met as a Pittsburgh Steeler walking to the Steeler complex was Jerome Bettis. The bus himself, Hall of Fame.
The bus.
I'm telling you, he was as big as a guard and played tailback. That was impressive to see him, because I knew him playing with him on video games, and you see the Sports Center stuff. But now I'm actually going to have a chance to block for this person. I was in awe of that entire team, because we had stars on the team. I mean, we really did. And really what stood out for me was my very first regular season game. We played the Oakland Raiders at Heinz Field. And Jerry Rice and Tim Brown walked right by me. Hall of Famers. And I'm like, okay, how did I get on the field with these two guys? Like this ain't even right, And just those type of experiences, I got to play with and against the late Junior Seau. To me, probably in my top three best linebackers I ever faced in my entire career, and how nice of a person he was, but not knowing, like you said, you think people's lives of success are like this, an upward climb, but you don't realize how many peaks and valleys that they have going on in their lives because that's all you really see. And knowing that he was dealing with CTE at the end of his career, that was crazy to me because I didn't see that at all. Playing with Tom Brady, blocking for him, things like that. It's so many stories that I could give you about that time in my career. Is really awesome, man. And I still felt like a kid, even though I got older, being around some of these guys.
That's super cool. And I love the stories as well of just, seeing superstars and heroes as people. And, kind of waking up and having that, like, wow, am I waking up in the league moments, or like welcome to the league moments,
Yeah.
you kind of have to shake yourself and say, wow, that's Jerry Rice I'm looking at over there, or that's Junior Seau, or that's Tim Brown, or that's Tom Brady that I'm interacting with every day. How did this happen to me? And I think that transitions into a really good next question for all of our kids at home, all across the country who are, watching this interview. And they're like, man, I have a dream to play professional sports or to reach the highest level of whatever my dream might be. What advice do you have for kids who are out there who have dreams like that and are living with diabetes?
Don't take no for an answer. And what are you willing to sacrifice? That's really what it comes down to. How hard are you willing to work? And are you going to take no when somebody says, no, you can't do this? I really feel like that you have to continue to go for it. Find every nook and cranny you can with information. Ask people about what you're inspired to do. Ask for that information. Please show me how. I'm hungry for this. You will get rewarded by showing hunger and want to have knowledge. You never know it all. Even as my time playing, I felt like I was a good player and I could have done a lot better if I would have asked more questions and really, really seeked knowledge and worked a little bit harder. Yes, I got to the highest level, but if I could go back and do it again, I would have really, really, really poked all those older linemen that I was playing with and some of these Hall of Fame guys who are being inducted to the Hall of Fame now that I played with. Hey, tell me, how'd you do this? What did you do? And that don't mean copy them. That means, okay, find a way or another to mix some of their things into your lifestyle and how you do things, which is going to create a better you. But you have to sacrifice. Do you want to go out and party? Do you want to go have a good time? Or do you want to stay at home or do whatever you got to do to work on your craft to get better? Because I guarantee whoever's with you right now, they're not investing in what you want to do as a person. That's just not what they're doing. They're not investing in you to make you better. Hopefully they're doing it for you. And that's not making you selfish. It's just saying, okay, I gotta do something that I really, really, really want to do. And I know I can do it. Now, if something happens and changes that, don't just give up. There's a door that God has opened for you that you're not seeing at the time, which might end up being a better opportunity than what you've dreamed about forever. I'll give you a perfect example, guys. I became a patient ambassador for type 1 diabetes. I did not ask for this disease. And I know none of us did. But it opened up so many avenues for me as a person and made me a better person. I'm extremely introverted. I really am. But it opened me up to be able to talk to people more, give my story. I met so many cool people that have diabetes that you wouldn't even know that had it, that has made influences on my life. Hopefully I'm impacting you guys just by telling my story. And I probably won't ever see you. If I do, make sure you say something to me and say, what's up now? But it gives you opportunities that you would never think. And I never thought I'd be in this position. I never did. So, and I really enjoy it. It's been a humbling experience. It's been more gratifying than me ever playing sports. It really has. And this is a door that got opened up for me that I did not realize or ever even think about doing. So really do whatever it is you want to do, but it might lead to you doing something that you enjoy a lot more.
I totally agree. I think, that day in 2003 where you were diagnosed, that day for me in 2005 when I was diagnosed, I had no idea it was going to lead me to conversations like this or
Yep.
opportunities like this to be at Imagine Camp in the Imagine Spotlight series. Because, without diabetes, this conversation between you and I doesn't happen.
That's right.
And I know how it makes me feel to interact with people with diabetes and hear the amazing stories of people like me whose lives were thrown a curveball and who accepted it and said, you know what, this is part of who I am, and I'm just going to continue to live my life alongside it. And I'm not going to take no for an answer. So, Kendall, I really want to thank you for your time today, and thank you for coming to the Imagine Spotlight and Imagine Camp series, and for all that you do for people with diabetes. Man, it's an inspiring story. I was sitting here just getting chills. I was living the life that I was able to live because of diabetes. So thank you so much for coming on today.
I appreciate that. And I want to say one thing before we close. The things, and this is something that I read yesterday in one of my devotionals, the thoughts and actions that continuously loop through your head and the way you approach life will ultimately direct your path. And that's something that stood out to me. Guys, the way you think about your life with diabetes, if it's not in a positive way, that's going to have an ultimate effect in the direction that your life is headed. There's something positive about you living with diabetes. There's nothing wrong with it. And I know it might not seem like it now, but all of you can make a difference in somebody else's life. It don't even have to be in a celebrity ambassador way. It could be just going out and helping somebody or seeing somebody else with a pump and saying something to them that impacts their day in a positive way. Those type of things, think positively about it and find different ways of going about it, and you'll all be fine. Hopefully, I'll see you all at some point, and I really appreciate Beyond Type 1 and the ADA for giving me the opportunity. This has been an amazing experience for me, and I hope the best to all of you.
Well, I appreciate that, Kendall. And just to, normalize diabetes a little bit more, like I'm having a little bit of a low blood sugar right now, but I feel like I could run through a wall after hearing and spending time talking with you, man. So again, thank you to the ADA and Beyond Type 1 for bringing us both here today and for bringing us all to Imagine Camp. We couldn't all be together in person this year, but we're together online and we're together with each other through Imagine Camp and through these amazing platforms that the ADA and Beyond Type 1 have given us. So thanks to everybody for being here today. And thanks to you, Kendall, for your awesome words of encouragement and your awesome message.
Appreciate it, Rob. Hope to see y'all again soon.